legs for 2 months, yellowish discoloration of eyes for 7 days, vomiting of blood for 2 days. History of presenting illness. The patient was apparently normal 3 months back, after which he developed abdominal distension for 3 months, insidious in onset, gradually progressive, diffuse in nature, not associated with abdominal pain, not associated with dyspnea. Swelling of legs for 2 months, insidious in onset, initially involving the feet, later progressed to the knees, present throughout the day and reduced on lying down or when legs are raised, not associated with scrotal swelling. No history of puffiness of face or reduced urine output. Yellowish discoloration of eyes for 7 days. No history of high colored urine or pale stools, not associated with itching. Hematemesis for 2 days. Sudden onset. Episodes 4 not followed by nausea or loss of consciousness. Color coffee brown. Quantity 20 ml. Non projectile. Contained food particles and it was associated with marina. History of sleepiness during day and sleeplessness during night. History of loss of weight and fatigability. No history of dysphagia. No history of fever. History of irritability and altered sensorium. No history of bleeding per rectum. No history of puffiness of face, reduced urine output, or frothy urine. No history of chest pain or palpitations. Past history. No history of similar episodes in the past. No history of TB or diabetes mellitus, hypertension, or bronchial asthma. No history of previous blood transfusions or tattooing. No history of previous abdominal surgeries. No history of recent travel. Personal history. He's a mixed diet consumer. He has decreased appetite since a week. He has disturbed sleep during night and increased daytime sleepiness. Regular bowel and bladder movements. He's an alcoholic. He consumes 180 ml of whiskey daily since past 20 years. He's a non-smoker. There's no history of IV drug abuse, not vaccinated for hepatitis B, married and is monogamous with wife. Family history, no history of similar episodes in family members. Treatment history, not on any medications currently. Summary, a 50-year-old male with chronic alcohol consumption history for past 20 years with no comorbidities, presented with abdominal distension for 3 months, pedal edema for 2 months, and jaundice for 7 days, and hematemesis associated with melena for 2 days. He also gives history of disturbed sleep pattern. Probable system involved is hepatobiliary system.
Going back, just you go to the first initial prime cardinal symptoms now.
Okay, sir.
So you mentioned about 4 symptoms, isn't it? Patient had abdominal distension
Yes, sir.
initially for the past 3 months, and did he took any treatment for that? He didn't bother about the distension, or
No,
what
sir.
did he do? Why he landed up to the hospital now? Was he on any treatment before that? Any evaluated before for that? It was
No,
three
sir.
months long duration, isn't it? 3 months long duration. So only
Yes.
because of probably the recent symptom, you said
Hematemesis.
that the hematemesis is there, so that warranted him for some
OPD.
consultation with the doctor. That's what you
Yes.
say, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And didn't bother about swelling of legs also. And as rightly mentioned, it is aggravated with the patient. The daytime and maybe the morning hours is less, isn't it? That's what you said. The swelling of the legs, it persists up to the knee, and it is more in the daytime and reduce where the patient lies down, or probably in the morning hours the swelling is reduced. That's what you want to infer, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And no scrotal swelling also. Patient age is 50 years, right? And the abdominal distension, does it associated with the breathlessness?
No,
You said
sir.
the onset is only insidious, is it gradually progressive,
Yes, sir.
and he never noticed any abdomen pain was not there, just only
No.
distension, no abdomen pain.
Yes,
So
sir.
probably you thought of what are the possibilities you suspect. Suppose patient doesn't bother about the symptom abdomen distension. So who are the person usually you come to the hospital? Maybe the short, if it's short duration, if it's short duration, abdominal distension for 3 months, if the patient doesn't bother, it means usually it means what? what would be the collection? When the 5 Fs are there, so
Yes, sir.
usually, if it is due to a slow accumulation of fluid, they may not bother him, isn't it? So
Yes.
probably they did not disturb his regular activities. And if it could have happened with a short duration, suppose, or maybe the person who already having some existing minimal distension, if it is sudden increasing in the volume collection, may advise he may be maybe advise the seeking of some help from the doctor, isn't it? So
Yes.
otherwise, it's a since it's a slower development. That is the reason probably is not took any medications or any consultant opinion is not taken. Is it bother also? It doesn't bother is with the activities. So such situations when there is a distension happen acutely. Suppose if you say the this gaseous distension, usually patient usually comes to the hospital early, isn't it? Also, if the fluid is there, if it is peritonitis causing abdominal distension, patient
Yes,
has
sir.
to take some because it will going to alter his routine activities. He may feel, may have fever or some other associated symptoms, feel giddy and more fatigability. That could have made him to seek a consultation in early stages also. Like that, interstitial obstruction, which is caused abdominal distension. So that also usually patient comes to the hospital in the early stage of the illness. So question of fluids or fat, fat also patient develops some obesity because if it is a collection of fat also patient but doesn't bother to sick because not going to alter his regular activities unless goes for long term, isn't it? So that is the reason probably only GA bleed is the only symptom or which admitted. Even swelling of legs also probably thought because of the work pattern. Because of work pattern and patient, many people say that if they travel for long distance, they always have some swelling of the leg, which they attribute as normal, but not so usually. Maybe common in females, some patients who was on long-term travel, but usually when the person complaining of some swelling over the legs after even travel, we have to investigate them early. Okay, some other patient they may not be important for that. They may think that that is normal phenomenon, but usually not normal phenomenon. Development of edema legs cannot occur cannot occur physiologically unless what when the situation get physiological pedal edema.
Mm,
Priyadarshi can answer. Is it possible for a person to develop edema legs physiologically?
so pregnancy.
Yes, pregnancy can produce. Okay, without pregnancy,
Mm,
something called as cyclical edema. Okay, the patient can have sometimes even in females it's quite common that they may develop edema without some unknown reason also. That
okay.
may subside on its own. It can occur in cycles because of hormonal disturbance. They say.
Yes, sir.
It's common in youngsters. Okay, so that's why and when patient is having edema legs, we have to exclude all other organic causes. The common is we have to rule out heart, lung, kidney, and liver. These are the four organs you have to be analyzed. The disease of the heart, disease of the kidney, disease of the liver has to be ruled out. Any patient period edema. Right? Okay. So
Yes,
by
sir.
this patient, let's go to the next slide. So no history of puffin surface. So okay, it's quite unlikely an output of urine is also normal. So probably it's quite unlikely to be due to a renal disease. So
Yes.
this patient puffiness of face is there and edema development and the order of development of the so Anasarca is there. The maybe the early onset of puffiness of face it favors the kidney disease. Early onset of pedal edema it favors the cardiac disease. Early onset of ascites favors the liver disease. That's what that's a common it's a dictum in medicine that usually think of that, but it can occur reversible also. Some patient, not always the renal disease, always the puffiness. Some patient develop epididymium also. The CKD, nephrotic syndrome classically or nephrotic syndrome classically they will have early morning puffiness, and
Yes, sir.
CKD patient can have usually the edema legs may be the early feature, right? So like that, abdomen distension, abdomen edema, the ascites, whatever you want to call it as. So this is usually the early feature of a liver disease, as you know, because why they develop ascites early is liver disease.
Sorry, sir.
Why is the development of ascites in liver disease? What is the pathophysiology for the development of ascites in liver disease? So when a person complaining of abdominal distress, the initial symptom, later on pedal that is a feature of liver disease, isn't it? So pedal edema developed first, then ascites later stages is suspected the cardiac disease, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Right? You can able to follow my point.
Yes, sir.
So development of the edema on legs, then subsequently after long term they may develop a maybe ascites. That is a feature of a breathlessness will be that's the feature of the cardiac disease. So in liver disease, it's usually the ascites develops early. Only later on the edema develops. Why?
So due to portal hypertension, sir, is resorption of peritoneal fluid. The peritoneal fluid comes out, sir.
Yes. Portal hypertension is going to localize the fluid in the peritoneal cavity. Portal hypertension, and also there are very series are there, overfill theory, underfill theory, and the other contributor mechanism for fluid overload in liver disease is the hypoalbuminemia, isn't it? But that is going to produce a
Yes,
pedal.
sir.
So hypoalbuminemia is a uniform event. So that makes the person to develop a edema over the legs also, right? So second hypertension. The three important mechanisms by which patient develops a fluid overload liver disease. One is the portal hypertension, rightly said. The second is a decreased
Hyperalbuminemia.
albumin synthesis, hypoalbuminemia. And third point is the secondary hyperaldosteronism. These are three important mechanisms by which patient develops a fluid overload in a liver disease patient. The first factor is the one, it usually results in the development of the fluid only in the ascitic cavity, right? So peritoneal cavity resulting in ascites. Okay.
Okay.
So is it possible for the person that cardiac disease can develop ascites early?
Sir? Hello?
Possible for a person with heart disease to develop ascites before pedal edema?
No, sir.
Impossible. You say impossible, isn't it? Realization says impossible.
Yes.
What about others' opinion? Swarna. Swarna Varshini is there. 220. Is he observing? Vikram.
Sir, there can be IVC obstruction, which
IV
can lead.
substitution going to resulting in a edema like it can produce edema. IV substitution
Right
produce.
heart failure, sir.
Yes.
Right heart failure, sir.
Right heart failure usually produces pedal edema first. The right heart failure, the three components of right heart failure is the pedal edema, second is the tender hepatomegaly, third is HJEP. These are the three features of the right heart failure. So that way of which the pedal edema develops early. Pedal edema, tender hepatomegaly, HJEP, and later on maybe ascites. Right? Later on maybe ascites is not a usual early feature. And right heart failure, the early feature is a pedal edema. Is it okay? Can you able to follow my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so pedal edema is a feature of right heart failure. Only the few situations where patient can develop the fluid getting collected in the peritoneal cavity. Ascites develops early in some cardiac disease. So you think of a pericardial disease. First, one point I have to remember is there are some form of disease can produce pericardial disease. You should produce the ascites early than a pericardium, especially pericardial effusion and cardiac tamponade. So these diseases, this is called as a ascites precox. It is called as a ascites precox. The ascites develops earlier than the pedal edema. So you think of at least one disease. There are some of 7 or 8 causes are there as a post-causal point of view, but at least you remember one point. So any pericardial disease can produce early development of fluid in the peritoneal space, ascites, prior to the onset of the pericardium. This term is called as ascites precox. Indicates most commonly due to a pericardial disease, either in the form of pericardial effusion, severe or tamponade, or constrict pericarditis. Also, these two diseases produce a ascites early. Okay, that point is, I think, clear now,
Oh, yes.
right? Now we come to the important history of yellow discoloration. That's going to say that patient has some liver disease, isn't it? So with the third history, he says is that I developed some yellow discolored urine, eyes. He says urine also. I think an ad, and patient feels that whenever says that my eyes are yellow colored, it's unless his food is jaundiced. So 7 days duration, and uh, and 2 days ago he developed a sudden onset of the maybe the hematemesis, and no history of loss of consciousness. The coffee ground colored material has been vomited and quantity you say 20 ml, and there is associated black tarry stools in the form of what is called as melena is also there. So there is a upper GL bleed. So a patient develops some complication. Some complication only is admitted because liver disease patient you suspected 3 months duration, and because the development of jaundice and upper GI bleeding, the patient got admitted, right? So that is the reason for the admission, and also the yellow discoloration of the eyes is only there for the past 7 days. It's noticed for the past 1 week or so. What are the how do you relate these two symptoms like hematemesis and jaundice? Why you develop
Sir,
jaundice all of a sudden suddenly?
sir, there's increased blood loss, sir, due to hypertension, due to liver dysfunctions as jaundice, sir.
Why is not happening for the initially? For patient is having symptom for the past 3 months. Only a week back alone developed jaundice. But before that, it developed epididyma. Before the epididyma, jaundice developed later. So, what is the why you developed jaundice in later stage,
What?
not early stage?
Hemolytic anemia.
Hemolytic anemia. So do you get patient usually they don't complaining of yellow dystonia because the hemolytic anemia is an unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia, isn't it? So usually the bilirubin level is not that very high elevated, not that very high elevated, and also usually the person says yellow colored. It is usually indicated as a dark yellow. Unless it's dark yellow, very difficult for him to recognize that. In hemolytic anemia, we get what is called as a what is the type of jaundice is the patient develop? Is a
Acholuric jaundice.
acaloric jaundice. So urine color will be normal. You can think of that. Urine color is normal, and patient is having a yellow colored eyes. You can think of that. Okay, in this patient, the history of yellow urination is very important now. You should ask him. So associated with not only eyes, is he having the yellow colored urine also? That fixes it's only a it's not due to hemolytic anemia, right? So the color of the urine is not yellow because it is only a hyper, maybe the word is called the hyperbilirubinemia in a case of hemolytic jaundice is due to an increase in unconjugated bilirubin level. Okay, so unconjugated bilirubin level usually it's the albumin bound. It doesn't get excreted in the urine, so urine color will be normal. It is not yellow colored, and also it is not that very high. Usually the total bilirubin usually doesn't cross more than 7 or 10. In contrast to where you get hepatitis, hepatocellular jaundice, obstructive jaundice, the bilirubin level very very high. So that will makes the color maybe the yellow colored because of the deposition of the it's due to a increased bilirubin level of conjugated bilirubin. Understand? So in this patient has not developed bilirubin because jaundice because it is a what is the the patient develop a jaundice there should be a you say it's a decompensation or liver function is affected, so the conjugation function is affected, not able to conjugate, right? So the problem here is there is a damage to the liver. So when the person is having even 1/5 of the liver is parenchyma is normal, it can do the bilirubin function. It can get able to take the bilirubin. It can convert. It can degrade, and jaundice may not develop. Understand? So
Yes.
1/4 to 1/5 of the 1/5 to 1/5 to 1/4 of the liver parenchyma is enough to do the bilirubin metabolism function, right? So unless the patient, suppose the patient develops a jaundice, liver disease means usually diffuse in one liver. So diffuse all liver parenchyma diffused inward. So is like what you get viral hepatitis, viral hepatitis or alcoholic hepatitis, toxic hepatitis. All those conditions, there's a diffuse parenchymal damage. So there's not able to all the hepatocytes get degraded. So the bilirubin degradation function affected. It's not going to be the conjugation and everything. All the classical the steps of functions of the bilirubin degradation is affected. That's why it's jaundice. Whereas, suppose if the case, suppose if you know the term what is called as a cirrhosis of the liver is nothing but a patient shrunken liver. In that case, usually jaundice is not a usual feature because even a patient has to develop minimal normally functioning parenchyma can do the bilirubin function. So even 1/5 of the bilirubin hepatocytes normally function hepatocytes is enough to do the function of the bilirubin metabolism. That's what I want to highlight. So patient even though developed other functions, you know the patient is epididyma due to a secondary hypertensionism, parasitis, portal hypertension, and hypovolemia. That's the attributes for the epididyma. That function already affected. So patient already some compromise. It is decompromised. Patient is having a decompensated. The functions of some of the liver functions is getting affected in the form of secondary hypertensionism, hypovolemia, isn't it? So that function is already affected for the patient. Patient developed already ascites, portal hypertension already developed because then it's an ascites. That all happened early stages before the development of the jaundice, right? But some patient, especially what is called alcoholic hepatitis patient, alcoholic hepatitis patients, certain acute binging or some unknown reason, their presentation they may have a interest jaundice will be there. They will develop ascites, then they will develop epididyma later. That also scenario is there that indicates the alcohol toxic hepatitis. Okay, here it is a maybe a slow process event where the functional liver is getting affected one by one. Okay, wow, because of the portal hypertension only develop here like upper G grade also. Already developed portal hypertension and already developed secondary hypertensionism, already probably developed hypovolemia, and now the bilirubin metabolism is affected. Okay, that's the way we have to interpret in your case, right?
Yes.
So go to the next slide. Next slide. You presented nicely, but some of the points I want to put next slide, ma Priyadashini. So whenever you present history, just you go ahead with all the positive histories. Don't jump from the positive to negative. Okay. So when the patient says that history of irritability of altered sensation, as there you say, you mentioned about that. And then no issue of dysphagia you're writing. As all those should be in the bottom of the list. Okay. So history of loss of appetite, the fatigability is there, that can be better. I already mentioned that, and sleeplessness already is there that mentioned, or irritability. All those things has to be mentioned before. Okay, because these are symptoms that to be
Yes.
analyzed or discussed. Then you go for some
Negative history.
what you call it as negative histories. You have mentioned about both positive and negative, but it should be in the order. Okay, that's the only point you should correct.
Okay, sir.
Right, Priyadashini, right? Okay, wow.
Okay, sir.
Whenever even also examination also you should present first the positive signs.
Yes,
Be
sir.
positive always first, right? Otherwise you have covered everything, and chest pain, palpitation you also included now. Okay, right. And why do you think of why do you bring the history now? Palpitation, chest pain, is it mandatory or probably you want to product disease this patient, or probably because of some chronic fluid overload, patient develops some palpitation now. What is the relevance of these symptoms? Palpitation and chest pain. History of fever is well accepted. Dysphagia is accepted, and bleeding per rectum. Okay, and no history of puffiness of face, alcohol reduced in output or frothy urine. Probably you think of some liver nephrotic syndrome. Okay, okay, right. Okay, you can add as a routine, but usually in your case, when he says the jaundice, I think it is more confined to liver disease. Right. Right. Okay. Positivity. You mentioned some of the positivities. We cover everything. Good. Next slide. Alcohol consumes 180 ml of whiskey daily. So he is a daily consumes alcohol almost 20 years. So he is a heavy drinker.
Yes, sir.
So any history of binging of alcohol is there? Is he able to? Is he taking any? Sometimes in that case, the history of palpitation is important. Binges, they will develop some holiday or something like that, and the alcohol relationship with alcohol and the disease involvement. So which other system involvement? You can heart is also affected. Alcohol syndrome. So 180 ml, it's a very high quantity. So after 20 years only developed. Is it
Yes,
always mandatory that patient develops only after the long duration of the consumption of alcohol, or what is your comment on the relation of alcohol and development of alcohol liver disease?
so it can develop anytime, sir.
Can develop any time.
It not necessarily after 20 years, sir.
So who are the patients more likely to develop early stage?
Uh,
As rightly said, even some patients they say history of alcohol only short duration. They may say only 5 years or even less than 10 years also. They also develop liver disease, isn't it?
yes,
So
sir.
it is yes, duration quantity plays a role, accepted, but not always. Even small minimal quantity intake, not a regular alcoholic, also can develop liver disease, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So how do you link this the alcohol and alcohol liver disease? What is your comment or what is your you are saying that the duration is not mandatory?
Sir, it's based on genetics also, sir.
Exactly, very good. So genetic predisposition also plays a role, accepted.
So patient with cardiac diseases can develop early pregnancy.
Pregnancy also called early called is no, my question here is a relation to the alcohol and liver disease only. Don't bring another etiology. So you are discussing only about alcohol and the development of alcohol liver disease. Both are different entities. Alcoholism is one and liver disease is other spectrum. Okay. As rightly said, some people with less intake of alcohol, with less years of intake also can develop. As rightly said, one of the factors is the genetic factors plays a role accepted, very much accepted. And that's what who are all the person who are prone to develop alcohol disease in alcoholics. Can I catch my point or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, madam. Tell me.
Uh, so patients who have had hepatitis, chronic infection, who are taking alcohol,
Very good. Which infection? Not infection.
hepatitis B and C, sir.
Exactly. So, in fact, hepatitis B infection, especially those who are hepatitis B infection, chance to develop liver is very early, too early. Very important. Associated definitely person hepatitis B positivity patient and who consumes alcohol, the more prone to develop alcohol liver disease. Very important point you rightly said. And also even the females, genders
Yes,
also females they take even a minimal quantity they get prone. So compared to male and female, who are all more prone to develop liver disease, it is quite common in females. So suppose if we take the same quantity alcohol taken in different period of duration and male and females are more prone to develop liver disease, right? And
yes, sir.
also duration also has got a definitely as a role, and most important genetic factors plays a role, and also nutrition of the patient also. They say that nutrition, even though many studies there's controversial points, nutrition also has roles. Even some patient who is social drinker, and they take proper protein intake, say that the development of liver disease is not that very common. Seen in patient who is take care social drinking, maybe higher social participation, the cancer development is not commonly seen. So because of adequate intake of protein-rich diet, even that positive should be discussed. Here we see more patient of low sugar patient, those who do the regular wage activities and they drink in the evening hours, and they are the one we have seen commonly, isn't it, in a government
Yes,
hospital, isn't it?
yes, sir.
You agree with me, madam, or not?
Yes, sir.
So these are points to be discussed about a relationship between the alcohol intake and the development of a alcoholic lipids. Right? Right. Proceed then. Another half an hour for discussion, case discussion. Proceed. Good. Summarized everything, accepted all your points have been taken. Present nicely. Only point I want to make is that this the order of presentation. Otherwise, you covered everything. And about GA bleeding, we'll have some other day, some other discussion also. About GA bleeding, we'll have a separate discussion about that, how to approach the case. Coming
Okay.
to this case point, you discuss the case. Perfect. Yes, Priyadashini.
So general examination.
Yes.
Conscious. The patient is conscious, irritable, oriented to time, place, and person. Moderately built and nourished. Pallor and icterus is present. Pitting type of edema present on both lower limbs. No cyanosis, clubbing, or generalized lymphadenopathy. Vitals. Temperature is 98.3 Fahrenheit. Pulse 82 per minute. 82. Regular rhythm, normal character and volume. No delays. All peripheral pulses are palpable and equal bilaterally. Blood pressure 110/70 mmHg, measured in right upper limb in sitting position. Respiratory rate 16 breaths per minute. Abdominothoracic. Jugular venous pressure not elevated. Head to foot examination. Alopecia present. No pretemporal hollowing or prominent cheekbones. No signs of vitamin A deficiency. No glossitis or angular stomatitis. Spider nevi present on the anterior upper chest in SVC territory. No gynecomastia, no loss of axillary hair. Palmar erythema present. Flapping tremors present. Dupuytren's contracture absent. Dilated veins seen on abdomen. No testicular atrophy. Bilateral pitting pedal edema on the lower limbs.
Here also, when you present, say all the positive signs. Okay. Huh? Don't
Yes, sir.
jump from negative to positive. Huh?
Yes, sir.
You say what are the positive signs, relevant signs, patient you have elicited. Then you discuss about the relevant negative signs that already you were discussing, right?
Okay, sir.
Then some signs which may be present in the patient may not learn to the case. That
Yes,
also
sir.
should be mentioned. Understood? That means that your thorough examination. The point here is whether you are examining the person thoroughly. Patient may be having some other swelling also. It could be lipoma, or it could be some skull swelling or injury marking, or patient may have some absent limb like that. So, which may not be related to your case. That also has to be mentioned in
Mention.
your presentation. Understand? So, when you present the points, all points, whatever made it will taken. So, you have made many important points. So, you put it in the order. Okay, right?
Okay, sir.
And
Okay, sir.
then go for negative signs. Okay, go for now.
Examination of oral cavity. Lips appear normal. No scars, fissures, or cracks. Teeth have multiple caries. Tongue normal. No ulcer or patches on palate, oral mucosa. Examination of abdomen. Inspection. Abdomen is uniformly distended and flanks are full. Umbilicus displays downwards and appears horizontally slit. All abdominal quadrants move equally with respiration. Skin appears stretched and shiny, no discoloration. Engorged veins present around umbilicus. No visible pulsations, scars, or sinuses. Hernial orifices appear normal. External genitalia appears normal. Palpation. On superficial palpation, abdomen not warm or tender. No abdominal rigidity. Abdominal girth is 100 centimeter. Bilateral spinal umbilical distance is 20 centimeter. Xiphoumbilical distance is 24 centimeter and puboumbilical distance is 18 centimeter, suggesting displacement of umbilicus downwards. Direction of flow of blood in engorged veins is away from umbilicus, both above and below. On deep palpation, spleen and liver is not palpable, no palpable mass appreciated. Percussion. Liver, upper board of dullness is percussed at fifth intercostal space along the mid-clavicular line and lower border is not palpable. Spleen, Castle's method, dullness in the ninth intercostal space along the anterior axillary line. Nixon's method, the spleen extends 10 cm above the left costal margin. Drop space is held to percus. Shifting dullness present, fluid absent. Auscultation, bowel sounds present, no venous hum, rub, or bruit over hepatic or splenic area. Examination of other systems. CNS, conscious, irritable, oriented to time, place, and person. Flapic tremors present. No focal neurological deficits. No other involuntary movements observed. Respiratory system, normal vesicular breath sounds heard. No added sounds. Cardiovascular system, apical impulse felt at fifth intercostal space along the midclavicular line. S1 and S2 heard. No murmurs. Provisional diagnosis, a case of decompensated liver disease with features of portal hypertension and hepatic encephalopathy due to chronic alcoholism.
Case of decompensated liver disease with portal hypertension. With portal hypertension and with hepatic encephalopathy. Alcohol is a etiology. Etiology due to alcoholic. Okay, good. So the fluid thrill is a percussion finding or palpatory finding.
Fluid thrill percussion, sir.
You don't do percussion. In percussion, there are only shifting analysis, percussion of organs, and we have drop space, stridal percussion.
Oh.
You want to do fluid thrill. Anything book says that like that, or your own interpretation?
So in the book
The
it's
fluid
given
thrill is
under
discussed in
percussion.
percussion or palpation?
Sir, in the book it's given under percussion, sir.
Under percussion.
Yes, sir.
We don't do any percussion. Okay, anyway, right, okay. But can we discuss the fluid thrill actually? It's the fluid thrill, isn't it? Because just a transfer of some fluids. So
Yes.
it is only a fluid thrill. It's okay, right? Okay. So in your patient, there is no fluid thrill is not there, but there is a shift in analysis there. So probably patient has a moderate effusion, moderate ascites. Then it's not tense. Do you think it's tense as it moderate as it is?
Moderate, sir.
Moderate ascites. So I hope you know the procedure how to check your fluid analysis, how do you test the fluid thrill, all those. I hope you know that
Yes, sir.
how to do the methodology of doing all those things.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. So it's a simple case, and patient since patient is having irritability, where it's made out irritable. Do you think patient is stuporous or better term? You have to use the technical terms. Irritability is the Persian own terms. So stuporous you can say, or deep coma, or like that. Better you have to find a better term when your examination point of view. By the since you are a technical person, you have to put a proper wordings also. So in this
Okay.
patient, the patient is irritable. That means he is acute confusion state. He is able to. So from whom then you took the HT? Took the HT from the
So,
patient or attenders? Is able to communicate with you
so
properly,
yes,
or
sir.
at times develop irritability.
So with the
The irritable
patient,
nature is persisting throughout, or it is intermittent. Probably when you
intermittent.
examine the patient, patient is able to cooperate with you, and is able to give you a question. Probably the question, whatever asked, the patient is able to interact with you correctly. That's what you say, isn't it?
Yes, sir. So
Yes, yes, madam. Priyadarshini.
he is able to interact, sir.
You can able to interact with the patient. So you say the patient is irritable and stuporous, isn't it? So it's quite difficult.
Yes.
So what is the test you will do to assess patient, especially if there is a flapping tremor, is there restricts there this patient is isn't it? There is a flapping tremor is there, so that is a sign of a definitely encephalopathy. You rightly mentioned the diagnosis. what would be the early stages? What are the other thing tests you can do? What is the constructional apraxia? Since you mentioned the examination central system, you can ask the patient to, since you say patient is able to talk to you, and you can mention about constructional apraxia, you can ask the patient to write some points and ask him draw that what is called as a constructional apraxia. That is the feature of a incomplete, isn't it? So you can do that also. The person is
Okay, sir.
conscious, so you can, since neural examination given specifically mentioned, apart from maybe the usual consciousness level, you can test this also. Constructional apraxia, the usual one that's affected by the early stage of a encephalopathy. And specifically, also mentioned about whether patient is having a meningeal signs also, because they can develop some infection. Yeah, so that also can be
Okay,
tested.
sir.
And what other parameter you can test in this patient neurologically? Liver disease on your side is apparent will accepted. Is already anybody out sensorium, if it encephalopathy, right? But we have to document increase hyperammonemia, isn't it? So we have to document hyperammonemia. But patient otherwise, if he's drowsy or is not able to communicate with you, the case scenario of same scenarios. Patient is the liver disease, he is having active liver disease as management, the patient jaundiced, and GABD is also there. If is altered sensorium, one point is the encephalopathy, you rightly said hepatic, because patient BP is normal. Hepatic encephalopathy, the point you made out is well taken. There's flapping tremor is
Yes,
there.
sir.
But it's a point, very important point, by which you made a encephalopathy. What are other mechanisms, other ways a person can develop a altered sensorium in a liver disease patient?
Liver.
Anybody else can answer also. Anybody else?
So there could be hyponatremia,
Yes.
electrolyte
Yes.
imbalance.
Yes, good. The metabolic parameters very important. Is the patient may
Uremia, sir.
eat with the diuretics, isn't it? So they're more prone for developing hyponatremia. More commonly, hypoglycemias. So liver disease, active liver disease patient, they are more prone to develop a recurrent hypoglycemias. That's what we always recommend the patient to give plenty of carbohydrate. In patient as a viral hepatitis patient, they can develop a spontaneous hyperglycemia repeatedly, and that's the most common cause. So we have to give a adequate intake of carbohydrates has to be given to the patient to prevent recurrent hyperglycemia, especially a patient if a diabetic patient develops cirrhosis of liver disease. Very careful giving a hyperglycemic drugs, right? So they're more prone to develop a hyperglycemia, but that's the most foremost common cause for autosensorium. And apart from that, rightly said, it's hyponatremia also important. This cardiac disturbance can produce, and because hypotension, the GE bleed, so they can have hypotension also. So circulatory failure can produce a autosensorium. Like that,
Yes, sir.
we have to relate the neurological involvement and the liver. Okay, so suppose a young patient, young patient, 35-year female patient has jaundice. What other neurological examination could do? Leave all these patients. See, happening alcoholic, you can clear the picture. I give another scenario. Patient is a young patient, only 20-25-year patient, a female patient. The patient comes with a jaundice. Jaundice is there, and recurrent issue of jaundice. Patient recovers and develops ascites also. And I ask, I'm asking you to do the examination, some specific examination in this situation. What finding you look for?
Sir, if the female patient is pregnant, it could be acute fatty liver of pregnancy, sir.
Patient non-pregnant.
Non-pregnant.
So Wilson's disease, wing beating
Good.
tremor.
So it is the Wilson's. Very
Wilson.
important is the Wilson's. So they can patient can develop recurrent test to acute hepatitis or the problem disease. So we have to look for a neurologically look for extrapyramidal symptoms, features. They can develop dystonias.
Okay, sir.
So extrapyramidal examination in a case of a liver disease, we have to correlate these two. So Wilson disease should be the this aspect. Also, you have to submit the patient for a slit lamp examination for a KF6. That is also an important step you should do if you suspect it with the Wilson disease. Right.
Okay, sir.
So the case presentation is given by you is okay, good, and only point this is the order of event what is supposed to mention. All the points you mentioned is well taken, and they are rightly said the portal hypertension. Why do you say the portal hypertension is patient?
Sir,
Because
there
of
is,
hepatitis, right? Okay,
yes, sir. And then there is hematemesis, which could be
okay,
is due to
yes,
esophageal
okay,
varices.
okay. Anything, any other sign in this patient?
Uh,
Mention
mm,
vegetation of the veins, isn't it? Veins are there. Huh?
yes, sir. Dilated
Very
veins.
important is dry. What is the triad of portal hypertension?
Sorry, sir.
What is the triad of portal hypertension? Triad.
Uh,
Ascites, splenomegaly, and dilated veins. Okay, this is the triad of portal hypertension. Of these, the splenomegaly is a very cardinal symptom, cardinal sign. Splenomegaly is a cardinal sign of portal hypertension. Splenomegaly, ascites. Third is the distant veins, dilated distant veins. Okay.
yes, sir.
So with the direction, already I mentioned the normal direction of blood flow as rightly away from the umbilicus, you rightly mentioned. So these are signs of what happened. Your patient has got all the almost three findings, isn't it? So you make a record about hypertension. Encephalopathy, rightly you said the patient is having a flapping tremor, and fever is not there. So SBP, we think of other complications, probably patient not having. So UGI bleed is there. Where you can say UGI upper GI bleeding, like a fine diagnosis. Yeah, patient having a decommon liver disease, portal hypertension, upper GI bleeding, encephalopathy. Encephalopathy is the point. So in this patient, probably the upper GI bleeding could be the precipitating factor for the encephalopathy, right? Okay. So we are going to investigate and manage this patient. 5 minutes.
So complete blood count, blood ammonia, viral markers, ascitic fluid tap, USG abdomen, liver function test, renal function tests, fibroscan, and UGI endoscope, upper GI endoscope.
Ascitic fluid analysis will do, isn't it? Do
Yes,
you
sir.
order for ascitic fluid analysis?
Yes, sir.
Ascitic fluid examination analysis will be do or not?
Yes, sir.
So what will be the finding maker? You expect transfer X-ray.
Transidate, sir.
Understood. Okay. So you can ascetic analysis. What is what is the other SAG? All other things will be of more of theoretical discussion. There is a common question exam they ask you, what is SAG, what is low SAG, and what is high SAG, what is the difference between transitive ascites and exudative ascites. When the translator has become exudative ascite, what is possible? So you will get exudative because it is SBP, SBP.
Yes, sir.
And what other tests you can do in the acidic fluid? What when do you do culture? When do you do neutrophil count? All those questions will be there about the acidic fluid analysis exam. What are the parameters you can check? And how do you treat the patient? What are the prime treatment? How do you treat the patient?
So alcohol restriction, hematemesis
Stop
can be
alcohol.
treated.
Stop.
Yes, sir.
You restrict him or stop him. Stop the alcohol.
Stop, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
Hematemesis, it's supportive care. IV fluids are given and blood transfusion can be given. Medical treatment,
Transfusion not
octreotide.
always indicated. Your patient has only 20 ml of oil, so not much of volume loss. We have to assess based on the patient clinical condition. We have to check, look for any orthostatic drop, isn't it? So all the other parameters. If patient warrants blood transfusion is based assessed clinically. Not all the patient may require the blood transfusion,
Okay,
and
sir.
we have to give some drugs to arrest bleeding. Medical
Yes, sir.
management is also there, isn't it? So the medical management, patients are not able to manage medically, do endoscopy and do some sub procedures. Ligation, all this can be done. Right,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Right, proceed. Then what diuretic will give?
So furosemide and spironolactone.
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅಂಚ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ பண்ணி ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಫಾಲೋ ಅಪ್ சொல்லுமா என்னைக்கு இன்டர்வியூ சொல்லுமா
So furosemide and spironolactone is given, diuretics.
நான் சொல்கிறேன் கேட்டு சொல்கிறேன் எப்போ வருஷம் கேட்டு சொல்கிறேன் பிகாஸ் வெயில் போகிறோன்னு அதை ரெஸ்பாண்ட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க கேட்டு சொல்கிறேன் இன்ஃபார்ம் பண்ணுறேன். சரி நீ ரைட்டில் தான் ஃபோனில் தான் இருக்க, நைட் நான் பண்ண முடியும் உனக்கு அதை விஷயம் பண்ணேன். நீ நைட்டுக்கு தான் அம்மா அமுச்சு விட்ட மெசேஜ் ட்ராவல் இருந்ததுனால நான் இதுதான் அம்மாவுக்கு தான் அமுச்சு விட்டேன், அம்மா விஷயம் தான் அமுச்சு விட்டேன் ஒரு மெசேஜ். நீ இருப்பேன்னா உனக்கு ஃபோன் பண்ணுறேன் உனக்கு வீட்டில் தான் இருக்கிறேன், காலேஜ் போயிருக்கேன். சரி சரி அமுச்சு விட்றேன். ஓகே 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 எப்போ நான் சொல்கிறேன்ப்பா. ஓகே ஓகே இங்கே தானே கேட்க நேரம் தானே போனோம் ஆஃபீஸ்க்கு, அந்த அட்ரஸ் அங்கே தான் இருக்கு. ஆமாம் இங்கே இன்டர்வியூ கேட்டு சொல்கிறேன்ப்பா. ஓகேப்பா மற்ற டேட்ஸ் நான் சொல்கிறேன் உனக்கு. சரி ஓகேம்மா. ஸோ டைரக்ட் வாட் டைரக்ட் யூ ப்ரிஃபர் திஸ் பேஷண்ட்?
Furosemide and spironolactone, sir.
First is spironolactone, and it's spironolactone, and you can what is the ratio? Usually prefer a spironolactone, isn't it? It's because of that it is a basic mechanism is a second hypertension. So you will start with spironolactone, and you can add furosemide different situations.
The spironolactone.
Very very careful. So we can worsen the encephalopathy. So always you go for before going for diuretic therapy, you very careful, give some fluid restrictions, IV chart, salt restriction has to be very mandatory. Patient should not take any salt because otherwise the diuretic won't act. So clear instruction to reduce the volume of intake. So 500 ml should be taken, maybe maximum one later. Output chart as per the output will give intake, and you start with the furosemide combination, preferably this because patient has pedal also, but be cautious, assess the his meditation carefully, watch for sodium level and also everything for monitor. And you start with spironolactone and add furosemide parentally. Okay, then once the fluid pedal edema subsided, go for only spironolactone. Okay, unless the once the patient pedal edema improves, go for only spironolactone. Okay, that's the treatment protocol what you follow, and you have to what is the ratio supposed to follow?
So spironolactone 400 milligrams and
maximum
furosemide.
dose. Right, understand maximum dose. What is the ratio? Usually we'll give, when you give 100 milligram of spironolactone, how much of furosemide will give? Maximum dose what telling correct. You are telling maximum dosage. Not maximum dose should not start initially. We go for step by step. 400 milligram the maximum dose, but it's called a refractory ascites. We have to start with it available 20 milligram tablets, 25, 50, 100. Suppose it wants 100 milligram tablet, how much of furosemide will give? 40
milligram.
Exactly, very good. So is 2.5 is to 1. Okay, ma?
Okay, sir.
So 2.5 times of furosemide will give. Then you depend on the patient response. You periodically monitor the patient condition and whether decrease or increase the furosemide or decrease periodic, right? And patient should be monitored. And you give a drug. Your patient, as rightly said, upper G bleeding is there. You stop the bleeding. You can give a injection IV paracetamol should be given, because not always due to a G bleeding is due to a varices. It could be due to a gastric erosion also. So H2 blockers and also PPA also found to be useful to prevent upper G bleeding. And if you do suspect is due to variceal bleeding, give a tenelipressine, other up to 10 group of drugs are there that should also can be given. And as you having active liver disease, you give us a liver support, and now we have to take any measures to prevent the worsening of liver injury. Right, a liver injury, like don't give any sedative, very important. And analgesics, nothing to be worsen the patient condition. Better not to worsen the patient. That's very most important. And maybe active vitamin K can give under 10 milligram for 3 days. So patient may have coagulation disturbance. And also look for any coagulation profile. INR should be tested, and it should be FFP or first blood counts to be replenished also. And the all patient has to be treated of all aspects. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Right. It's good presentation, and also your communication, everything is good. And the only thing you have to modify certain points, how to present. Good.
Yes, sir.
Any comments from anybody? I can present if I have some other class also. Sufficient conference, short time. I think the class was useful. I need feedback. Do you think it's useful class or not? Priyadarshini.
Yes, sir. It was very useful, sir.
Others, sir? So your approach has to be only clinical orientation. Okay, this part, then only this aspect of discussion over, then maybe few questions may be there about your knowledge about other aspects, like what's board hypertension. All the six will be, the question will be there. But the prime point when you discuss, suppose if this you are presenting this is a long case, what we discussed only is going to the maybe the pattern of examination. Okay, right. Right. Okay. Good. Okay. Monday, I'll be also take Monday. I am also take Monday is my turn also. So anybody on presenter come can prepare by 8:30. 8 to 8:30. Right. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
And representatives.